Hello, everybody. It is 7 o'clock on the dot. I am live streaming on Facebook. Hopefully, I'm doing it right. You will see me toggle between screens just in case there's any comments.
It is 7 o'clock on the
And I can hear myself.
I am live streaming on Facebook.
Let me turn this volume down. Okay, there we go. We're good now. So if you're in Facebook land watching and you want to ask questions, drop them in the comments and I will be going back and forth. Just as a heads up, I had a moderator for this evening and they have the flu. So we are going to be doing this with me. I did have several citizens in Cabarrus County that could not make it tonight for whatever reason. They did submit some questions to me, so I'm going to ask or answer those questions as well. But what I really want this meeting to accomplish is you, the people, asking your questions, not having to go to fancy meet and greets, feel like you have to donate to a campaign, getting real on the spot live answers, not rehearsed answers, and just being accountable to you guys. I'm running on accountability, approachability, and accessibility, and this is a major way that we do that. So in the comments, guys, drop your questions. As you think of them, they're not going to bother me, drop them below, and I'm going to get started. I have a statement about who I am because several of you that are in the webinar this evening and even in Facebook land might not know who I am. So I'm going to start with something that's going to make some people uncomfortable. Cabarrus County does not need better slogans. It really needs better decisions. Counties like ours don't fall apart overnight. They erode slowly, and that happens with one feel-good vote at a time, one unchallenged excuse at a time, and one budget pass without negotiation at a time. And then everybody is left looking around saying, how did we get here? Well, the answer is simple. We started voting on feel-good ideology instead of outcomes. My name is Alexis Hughes. I'm a wife, a mom of three, a business owner, and someone who's invested in Cabarrus County because I live here and I deal with the consequences that leadership makes decisions on. So I didn't run for this title. I'm not a career politician at all. I ran because I got really tired of watching our families get squeezed while the government just got complacent and comfortable. And yeah, I've heard it before that I'm too blunt for some people. It's been the life story, guys. But I want to explain to you all why I'm public about my positions and why I am blunt about my positions. I had a respected mentor once tell me something, and it completely changed how I view leadership. Subtraction equals multiplication. At first, that sounds a little backwards, but here's what it means. When you remove waste, you multiply impact. When you eliminate inefficiency, you strengthen essential services. When you say no to the wrong things, you have more room to say yes to the right things. That principle works in business, it works in families, and it absolutely works in county government as well. I am public about my stances because clarity really does create accountability for us all. When you know, as a voter, exactly where I stand, I can't walk into one room and say one thing, then walk into another and say the complete opposite. I can't pander for votes, I can't shape shift, and I can't hide. It holds my feet to the fire, and frankly, that's how leadership is supposed to work, and that's what we should expect from all of our candidates. If you're looking for a candidate that's going to tell a group exactly what they want to hear, guys, I am not that person. I'm not for you. Don't vote for me. Because I believe that you should be clear and consistent rather than popular and hollow. Here's what ideology-driven voting does to a county like Cabarrus. It turns the budget into a big performance. It replaces math with messaging, and it honestly leaves the taxpayers holding the bag. We have seen it here. We've approved major purchases and capital decisions while basic maintenance gets deferred. We've expanded programs without clearly measuring the outcomes for them and if they make sense. We've watched costs rise and rise and rise, and the residents are told, well, this is just how we do it. This is how it's always been done. And when people ask hard questions, the response is often, well, we can't do anything because state law. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes if we're being honest, it's a shield. It's easier to say our hands are tied than to challenge the system. It's easier to explain the problem, then fight it. If state policy is hurting Cabarrus County citizens, whether it's limiting flexibility, increasing our costs, or creating inefficiencies, the job of a commissioner is not to shrug it off. The job is to push back, to build a coalition, to advocate, to challenge, to show up in Raleigh and say, this is not working for the people in our county. Your county government shouldn't be a powerless middleman. It should be your voice on an amplified megaphone. Let's talk about where real governing actually happens on a county level, and that's really the budget, y'all. In business, nothing gets approved without negotiation. Nothing. Contracts are negotiated, pricing is negotiated, scope of the project is negotiated, but in county government, department budgets often come in and commissioners feel pressure to approve them as is because nobody wants to be labeled anti-something. But stewardship demands that negotiation. Every single line item should be questioned. Every contract should be justified. Every expansion should be earned. And our department heads should expect that and not get mad when we ask for it. Negotiation is not obstruction. Negotiation is respect for you, the taxpayer. And this is where subtraction equals multiplication shows up again. When we trim excess, public safety gets stronger. When we cut waste, essential services get better. And when we stop funding what doesn't work, we free up resources for what does. Now, there's one of the most broken incentives in government, one that I am sure you will all recognize. It's the use it or lose it mindset. So if a department doesn't spend their entire budget, they risk losing funding next year. So instead of rewarding efficiency, why would we punish that? Money gets spent not because what they spend it on is actually needed, but because it's there to spend. That's why you see year-end spikes or year-end spending spikes in almost every department in government. That's why inefficiency becomes baked into the system. That is not stewardship. A smarter county rewards departments for saving money, not penalizes them. Because when subtraction is done right, multiplication naturally follows. So here is my commitment to Cabarrus County when you elect me as your next county commissioner. I'm going to be clear with you guys, and I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to negotiate every single dollar. Hello, that's what I do every day. I'm going to challenge broken incentives, and I'm going to question ideology-driven spending. And if I need to, I will challenge state law when it harms the people of this county. Leadership is not about managing decline. It's about protecting the people who fund this county, which is you guys. Cabarrus County doesn't need leaders that go along to get along. It needs leaders willing to subtract the wrong things so we can multiply what actually matters. If that makes me unpopular with the system, so be it. I didn't run to protect the system. I ran to protect the people paying for it. That's why I'm here, that's why I'm running, and that's the standard I'm going to govern by. So with that, I will get to any questions that you guys have in the chat box, everything. So I have a first question. It says, regarding the night's previous meeting, what is your take on the reassessment of county insurance and the policy regarding free speech? I'm so glad you asked this because boy, I was heated today when I was watching that meeting. And I have some notes, y'all. Oh my goodness, I have some notes. Okay, so number one, I think that what the county commissioners are doing in finding a different broker than what we have been using, which is USI. We've been in a 5-year contract with them. I absolutely think it makes sense for them to look into other brokers to see if that could save us money. So with that meeting last night, we actually did find out, yes, we can save money. Money in the millions by switching brokers. Now, USI has a 90-day period where you have to decide whether you're going to re-up or not. And that deadline was coming up quick. Now, what everybody online and nobody wants to talk about is for a year now, several of the sitting commissioners have been asking our county managers to interview other brokers to dig in. That has not been done. And so we're getting to this deadline. And so our commissioners acted because they're being good stewards of our tax dollars. And they interviewed 2 other brokers. Both of those brokers advised, and I'm not saying verbatim here, but both of those brokers advised that they could save us millions in services, without, like, and this is the clear part, without reducing benefits to the citizens. In fact, both of them said they could actually give you more options, expand on the benefits, and potentially lower the premiums for the county employees and the retirees that are funded by that system. And so my question, number one, is why are we mad that we're going to save on average $3 million? It could actually be more than that. They were quoting averages, right? Why are we mad about that? I 100% am behind that. In fact, I think it was asinine that the previous board signed a 5-year contract with USI. I don't know about y'all, but in real estate, if I go to you and I say, hey, you're going to sign this listing agreement for me, it doesn't expire for 5 years. Aren't you going to stop and be like, no, what if I don't like you? What if your services aren't good? What if nobody's happy with you? Absolutely not. No 5-year contract. So I am 100% behind the county commissioners on that. Now I understand 2 commissioners said they didn't know about it. It was on the agenda. They had the agenda for a week. I know that the chair actually called both of them to discuss it with them, and they could have known had they made the effort. They had opinions on everything else, and so I'll pivot with that. The policy regarding free speech, absolutely 100%. So if I remember correctly, when Mr. Campbell was kicked out of the meeting and that resulted in a lawsuit, it was actually Commissioner Wortman that brought up this policy, and Steve Morris at the time, former Commissioner Morris, actually enforced it and kicked him out, and we got hit with that lawsuit. Free speech is free speech. You cannot tell someone what they can say, how they can say it, all that. And it's clear if you look at case law that they were 100% in violation. So what I see happening with this new policy is they're abiding by the settlement of that lawsuit caused by Commissioner Wortman and former Commissioner Morris, and doing what they said they would do by revising that. And the talk about, vulgarity and cursing, some of the smartest and most respected people I know say curse words, okay? They just do. You don't have to agree with someone. You do not have to agree with the manner in which they speak. But the fact of the matter is, we're allowed to it. You can't police speech like that. So I agree with the policy changes. I'm very thankful we have Ian Patrick on that commissioner board right now that is looking at these policies and really digging in. I'm thankful for it. That's my position on that. I'm gonna click answer so I don't answer that one again. Thank you for the question. We have another one. Do you agree with the process of doing a national search to find our next county manager? My position is that any role in government should be filled by someone who lives here and pays taxes here, period. You should exhaust all options of finding someone living in our county for any position before you ever go outside of our county, let alone go nationally. If we have specific qualifications for a position and someone here at home meets those qualifications, why would we outsource that somewhere else? Because then what we don't talk about is for these big positions, there's often relocation packages that come into play when you're negotiating salaries and everything like that. Why would we spend more? So no, I don't agree with the process of a national search right off the bat. I think you do that when you exhaust all options here at home. And frankly, if we've got someone that meets the qualifications, let's let them have the job if they're here and they meet the qualifications. We've got several department heads that don't meet any of the qualifications on paper, but here they are department heading. So thank you for your questions. No, why are we going national for that? That's like outsourcing all of our jobs here in the US in favor of bringing people from overseas here. If we've got qualified people here, let's have them do the work. Let's see. Okay, so that's the questions from our chat box here in the webinar. I'm going to briefly go over and check live, see if we have any comments. Okay, no comments there on the live. So I'm going to take this time to go into some questions that I have received from some citizens that couldn't be here tonight. So the first one is kind of funny, and I'm going to answer this one. It says, if you received a $2 million grant to use for the county in any way you wanted, what would you do with those funds? Well, guys, the first thing I would do is I would look at our debt. How much debt do we have? And if I could use that to pay that debt down, I would. I think in money in terms of like how I budget for my family. Me and my husband sit at the kitchen table and we say, oh, we have a bonus or we have extra money. What are we going to do with it? Well, why would we not pay down debt? And once that debt is paid down, let's pretend that debt was paid down. Doesn't mean you have to spend it. Put it away for a rainy day. Invest it somewhere. If we're getting grants, I question, quite frankly, what the strings are that are attached to those grants. Like, money's not free, it comes with strings. We see that every day with the hands are tied thing. Back during COVID, we got federal funds, and a lot of those federal funds were tied to us having to do what the federal government told us we had to do. I don't like taking free money from anybody, to be honest with you. So, thanks for that question to the citizen that's in it. We have, do you feel that Cabarrus County should provide financial incentives up to 85% tax breaks to attract major businesses providing new Cabarrus shops? Absolutely freaking not. No. So in my job now, I negotiate every single day. And so I really question the current tax incentive for Eli Lilly, 85%. Number one, I think Cabarrus County is an amazing county. I don't think we really need incentives for businesses to want to come and be here. I understand that every incentive may have its place, but why did we use the full 85%? Our policy says up to 85%. We can't do 40%, we can't do 15%. Why do we go straight to 85%? That is why we need someone on our county commission that knows how to negotiate, that knows how to call a bluff, basically. I mean, we know what the footprint for our county is. We know the type of land and places they were scouting out. It's not that hard to go and find other places they could potentially be scouting out and see what incentives they are and see how we shape up to them. I question whether that research was done 100%. So no, I'm not in favor of 85% tax breaks. I don't think any business in the world needs an 85% tax break, and I just don't. So thank you so much for the question. I appreciate that. Next question. What are the first 3 things you would like to accomplish if and when elected to our commission? I.e. proper funding schools, auditing our budget, removing the wished wants versus needs, etc. So the very first thing I would want to do, and I commend the commissioners that are on the board currently working to do this already. The first thing I'd want to do is audit the budget, and not just audit the budget from a standpoint of let's make cuts, right? I want to see line item by line item by line item in every single department. I want to know that budget down to how much money are you spending on copy paper, right? Like, that's what I want to see. And I want to see it in quarterly formats, because if I have a department who is consistently, for an example, consistently spending 200,000 every quarter, and then the fourth quarter, all of a sudden their spending jumps to 600,000, I want to be able to question that. So my number one priority is let's look at that budget, let's audit it, let's see exactly what that money is being spent on. Example, I know it doesn't seem like much, but if you've got one department spending, let's just say $50,000 on mugs at the end of the year because they have to spend, otherwise they can't justify wanting the same budget the next year. If they're spending $50,000 on mugs, and then we look, and departments all over are doing that, that's a lot of money, and that adds up. So that's first and foremost. I think once we get that under control, I want to see an audit of our vacancies. We already know at a state level it's an issue, but let's look at our job vacancies and any jobs that we have been functioning well without filling and they've been open for over a year. We probably need to get rid of them. Well, because here's the thing, in our budget, they're budgeting for that position that's not been filled for a year or more, and we're just fine without it. We need to get lean. Take that out of the budget. That's one real way to do that. The next thing in that is what positions are overlapping. what positions are basically the same exact positions with one or two things here and there that are different that you can combine into one. Let's look at that. Let's see where that goes. The next thing is school and public safety funding. I would really take a hard look at any of their funding, and not from a standpoint of I want to cut it, right? But I want to make sure that you're getting what you need, right? Not what you want. And not just like every single spending, you should be looking at that. Are you getting what you need or just what you want? At the work session, I watched several groups come in and ask for more money, but not once did I hear anyone say, let me see your last 3 years of budget. Let me see your revenues versus your expenditures. Are you operating in the red or are you operating in the black? That is responsible. Before I'm going to open my checkbook and invest into your program, you better show me why you need it, number one, how you are with budgeting, number two. So I think that's needed overall. In terms of proper funding for the school, we have to fund the school. We don't have a choice about that. That is state law. Maybe we can change that one day. I love our schools. I want our schools to be good. But again, it goes back to what strings are attached to funding. What funding is the school accepting that is putting non-necessity programs into our schools? Things like CRT, things like gender identity, like all of that, like none of that needs to be in school. And it doesn't need to be in school. School is for math, social studies, school is for history, school is for reading, it's for writing. None of the other stuff needs to be in there. So I'd want to see their budget. I'd want to work with them. But that would definitely be an issue. And I think the next one would be putting proper resolutions into place to ensure that growth in the county is slowed down. A lot of people come at me and say, oh, there's no subdivisions going in the county. Not yet. I mean, they're taking up all the land in the municipalities. Where do you think they're going to go eventually? They're going to start coming out to the county. So we need resolutions in place to protect our county land now. So those would be my main priorities from the start. Okay, we have Commissioners Laura Blackwell Lindsay and Larry Pittman voted against a request for just $150,000 for Cabarrus County nonprofits that feed, house, and support seniors, kids, and families from the county's $5 million emergency fund. Was that the right decision? So absolutely, that was the right decision. County government is here and your tax dollars are here for essential services. Those nonprofits are amazing at what they do. 100% they have their place in this community. I'm going to talk a little religiously right now. The Bible says that we cannot give compulsively, we have to give freely. That's what God calls us to do. Making a taxpayer pay taxes and then deciding which charities to fund and which charities to not fund with those tax dollars contradicts that. What I would like to see, that $150,000 could have been raised, as we saw, with one campaign event. Why are our leaders so good at raising funds for their own campaign, but losing that rallying spirit for the people in their community? Communities show up for each other. That's not what taxpayer dollars are for. It's not. I know that sounds heartless. I have a heart. I have compassion. But we have to get real with where this is. If we give one $150,000, we've got to give another, and we've got to give another. There was a campaign event that was this month, and to be a host, you had to pay $6,800. There were 20 hosts. It was $136,000. So while everybody's getting mad at Laura and Larry for doing what they're supposed to do, making sure taxpayer dollars go to what they need to go to when we're facing a deficit, instead of getting mad at Laura and Larry, I'd like for you to go to those representatives and those hosts and ask them to support these initiatives, because that is what a village is. So that's my answer. How do you know about the public schools when you send your kids to private school? I love this question. I love it. I know about the public schools because my kids were in the public schools. They were given inappropriate surveys multiple times when I had asked the administrators to not give my kids those surveys. When I brought my concerns to the Board of Education members via an email, one of those members wrote me back and told me if I didn't like how they ran things and I wasn't happy to move to a different county. Um, my children were being taught things that I didn't agree with, and I didn't see any of our Board of Education members, aside from Laura, stepping up and doing the right thing. I'm actually glad I did that. And you want to know why I'm glad I did that? Because now my kids don't have to worry about being in a bathroom with a boy that thinks they're a girl. That is against my beliefs. Every single parent in this world has the choice of where they send their kids to school. Luckily, with the Opportunity Scholarship, we're seeing even more parents have that choice. And I will not apologize for sending my kids to a private school that is Christian based so that they will learn the values I want them to learn because I'm their parent first. And if the administrators and Board of Education would have respected me as their parent, they'd probably still be in public school. So I ask you to take this question to the school board and ask them how they feel about alienating parents of Christian faith and background out of the public school system. Thank you for your question. I really appreciate that because I knew it was going to come up and I wanted to make that clear. Any way you can guarantee that we won't be forced to pay for county promotional items, including or up to $350 tablecloths, and that the invoices won't be paid 3 times because they didn't realize it had already been paid. So I would like to put forth a resolution that any budget that we provide a department does not have discretionary spending. And I'd like that resolution to be very clear on what discretionary is for items such as these. I'm sorry, I can go and get some really nice tablecloths. I've done it. See, y'all forget I'm in real estate. I have to have tablecloths for events. I have to have swag, right? I know how branding works. So what I'd like to actually do is a resolution that doesn't allow those things. We don't need $350 tablecloths. If you want to look nice and presentable, go get a pretty white one off of Amazon for $10. It's not that hard. So yeah, I want a resolution. Any spending beyond a certain amount by a department has to go to a vote with the county commissioners. Thank you for the question. Teacher pay is a recruitment and retention issue, and some candidates say that Cabarrus County teachers are falling behind. What can Cabarrus County do? Number one, we can support our teachers when they come to us and they tell us that the administration is not punishing bad behavior by kids. Right now, our teachers in our county are functioning like their parents, their bodyguards. They spend more time correcting bad behavior than they do actually teaching. What a disservice to the children in that classrooms that actually aren't misbehaving, and what a disservice to the children that are misbehaving and are not learning that actions have consequences. So number one, our administrators, our principals, our vice principals need to start enforcing the code of conduct exactly how it's written and stop giving chances. That first and foremost. Number two, maybe stop allowing kids to walk out of school in protest. Maybe enforce some rules of decorum around that. Freedom to protest is perfectly fine, but if I am a first responder, if I'm a firefighter, and I say, hey, guess what? Walking off this fire right now because I got to go protest. Guess what? I'm going to get fired. There's consequences. Our students need to know that. Number two, for our teachers, I think the next thing that will actually help them from falling behind is to reduce administrative bloat. This is not a personal attack on any administrators within the school system. I think they're all great people. But again, it goes back to duplicating positions. We need to look at that as a whole. And then our school board needs to step up. When our superintendent is not doing what they should be doing, when our administrators are not doing what they should be doing, they need to step up, they need to speak out. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of that from our current school board. The most we've heard from them about anything, even though a lot of stuff is going on, is when Mama Bear wanted to ask us how much prayer we need. And my answer to her is quite a bit, ma'am. So what are your thoughts on the county employees and administration refusing or dragging their feet on items that need to be done, just like the insurance issue? How would you like to see something of that nature handled? Well, first of all, you're refusing to do what you are being instructed to do lawfully by the people that you should be listening to. So if you don't do it, you should be fired. In the private sector, if I'm told, here's what I need you to do, here's the deadline, and I don't meet it, well, I'm gonna get fired. You should get fired. Beyond that, I think, and I've mentioned this, I think our county contracts, there should be resolutions in there. And if you are fired for cause, meaning you did not perform your job duties, you don't get severance. Whoever wrote the former county manager's contract, boy, So no, you should not get severance if you get fired. And I think we should take it a step further, and within the limits of the law, on their employment contract, if they are fired with cause, they should have to sign giving us permission to disclose to the public exactly why. Because right now there's too much he said, she said, not enough transparent information, and that really would make sure that they actually perform their job duties. Right now there's just no accountability. They can just do what they want. None whatsoever. Thank you for that question. I've got one in the chat box. If you could pick any politician, past or present, that you feel like legislated or governed in the way you plan to as a commissioner, who would it be and why? That's a tough one because we have so many politicians all over the United States. Just one is really, really hard because I don't think any of our politicians are perfect, and all of our politicians have done something at some point I have disagreed with. So honestly, on a local level, yes, I love Laura. I do. She has fought for the people that voted her in for years and years and years. She has stood up when it wasn't popular. She has taken so much flack, had mud slinged in her face, but she shows up for the people every single day with a pure and clear heart. She has nothing to gain from this. So locally, I really, really respect Laura. I would say higher up than that, God, Kennedy, man. He is just blunt and to the point. I really like Kennedy. JD Vance, man. Come on. Next election, I hope he runs. That's a really difficult question because I like a lot of him. As a representative from the town of Midland, what are your plans to help our citizens get a middle and high school in our town so our students don't have to keep getting bused to Concord? I understand that the county has purchased and allocated a piece of property for a school. However, I've heard that this need is pretty low on the to-do list with regards to school funding and needs. I would love to see a school out here. I live in Midland, right? Planning and zoning commissioner for town of Midland right now. And I would love to see a school out here. We deserve it. Right now, for middle and high school, you're driving 30 minutes one way if you take your kids to school. Buses are having to go longer. That means we either need more bus drivers or we're putting more wear and tear on our buses. So I think it's prudent to get one out this way. We have to prioritize that, right? So what school capacity in each of the schools right now? If we were to redraw maps, what would that look like? How would that impact students? And then what are the necessities for each school that has to be built? What are the necessities, pros, cons for each school? And then you make the decision on which school gets funded first based on where the most necessity for it is. Without seeing all of that, there's so much data to look at in that. Without seeing all of that, I don't know that I could make that a priority from day one, but I definitely think it is something that is 100% needed. Thank you for your question on that. Let's see, I'm gonna check and see if there are any in the Facebook comments, and every time I do this, it starts playing. Okay, none in the Facebook comments. Okay, so right now, we are winding down. I definitely want more questions, but I'm going to get back to some of the questions that were emailed over to me. from residents in the county. So one of those questions was, how do we reduce government spending while continued growth is bursting at the seams in our county? I think the very important thing that we have to keep in mind here is that that growth is bursting at the seams because of municipalities, guys. The municipalities are approving, and I'm not, they have limits on how they can say no, right? We can't just say no because we don't want you here. We can't just say no. That's state law. That goes back to, hey, go to Raleigh and fight. If your people want you to fight, you go to Raleigh and you fight, right? But in terms of the county, we can do things like minimum lot requirements. That slows growth because a lot of these big box developers will not develop 1 acre lots. They're wanting to pack everything in like sardine. So that's one way. For the county specifically, I know municipalities can't do this, but for the county specifically, before we approve any kind of development in the county, we can require a school capacity impact analysis. We are allowed to deny if if we're overcrowded in schools and we can't handle it. And so I think, there's not resolutions in place for that in the county right now. And I think we need to get those resolutions in place. We don't want to wait until the growth is here in the county to make those resolutions. And then we really have to start working with our municipalities. There's very few people I see that come to like Town of Midland Planning and Zoning or the town council meetings that are also at the county meetings, at the commissioner meetings, that are also at the Concord meetings, and our schools and infrastructure overlap with each other. And so we really got to start working cohesively in all areas. Because I'll tell you, if I'm getting blessed out over a decision that a mayor or a town council member made in Concord, dude, I'm transparent. I'm going to send those calls right your way. And I'm also going to be working with the attorneys. What can we do? I'm not one of those people that says, nope, can't be done. I'm one of those people that says, okay, it can't be done this way. How can we get it done legally? And so, yeah, our town attorneys probably gonna be fed up with me, but I'm gonna put them to work because there are things we can do. I'm just not one of those people that accepts no for an answer. Thank you for that question. Next question, it says, do you support impact fees on developers to help cover the cost of growth? You're down? Absolutely. Yes. Because in my mind, if you are coming into a community, you don't just use it up, make your money and then leave. You need to leave that community better than what it was when you got there. So I 100% support impact fees. The reality is it's been ruled illegal here in North Carolina. There was a case and they said, oh, you can't do that. And so what I would like to do is work with our representatives in the House and state and other county commissioners, because if our county in North Carolina is having this problem, other counties are too. And we have got to create a voice that is bigger than the Home Builders Association with lobbyists up in Raleigh. And that goes back to lobbyists in Raleigh. I don't believe in lobbyists. I don't believe in that at all. And we've just got to be bigger and louder. And that means we've got to rally support, and not just from our county, from surrounding counties. You have to change the law. If the law's not working for the people of your county, you have to be willing to do what needs to be done to change it. The reality is a lot of people don't want to do that because it shakes the cage, it rattles feathers, it might make golf on Sundays and Saturdays a little uncomfortable. I don't care. I don't play golf. I'll rattle the cages. I can't promise I'll get it done, but I can promise you're going to know that I did everything I could. So yes, I 100% support impact fees for builders. We saw it work very well in Fort Mill, South Carolina. How do you work with the school system while respecting the separation between the county and the school board? The fact of the matter is the county funds the school. Maybe not every bit of the school, but I think we have to work together. Commissioners need to be going to school board meetings. School board members need to be going to commissioner meetings. We need to be looking at the realities of the budget and not just giving money. I noticed that at the work session when the fiscal year budget was presented, there was a lot of projections, but none of those projections were actually proven to be needed by data. And how you look at that is you look at last year and the year before. So if in 2023 you were projecting 6% growth needed in the budget for the school board, and then in 2024 the school board only had 2% growth, well, the next year you should be budgeting 2% projections based on the data. And that's where we've got to work with the school board. I'd like to see the school board make their budget more line item and more friendly for the county as well. And that's just, we've got to be a team. We've got to be a team if we're going to have any hope, because most people do not realize that we don't get a say in how that school board really spends their money. But what we can do is when they come and ask for more, we can ask for their budget and see where that money's been going. So an example of that is if we've been given millions and millions and millions for years and years and years for deferred maintenance, but that money never took care of the deferred maintenance, well, that's some questions we should be asking the school board. Let's see what other questions we've got. Okay. How do your personal values influence your leadership without imposing them on others? So it's no big secret I'm a Christian. It's no big secret I believe in God. And the values that the Bible teaches me help me lead with empathy. It helps me lead truthfully, and it helps me lead responsibly. Me making decisions based off those values and those morals has nothing to do with pushing my religion on you in any way. What it does do is make sure that I'm a good person, right? I don't think anybody would say like, hey, Christianity is a bad religion, and actually mean it if they know true Christians. With that being said, religion has nothing to do with budget. Religion has nothing to do with wasteful spending. I'm pretty sure if I lowered your taxes, you wouldn't care if I was a Christian, and you wouldn't care if my Christian values was the reason why those taxes were lowered. So it shapes exactly what I do, but just because you have a different religion than I do doesn't mean I'm going to force my religion on you. It doesn't mean that I'm not like, how a county commissioner can't force religion on you. You don't want to pray, don't pray. Like it's very simple. What are your thoughts on the Propst farm sale that Steve Morris is about to push through, forcing our residents to pay for the developer's utilities? Y'all, oh, some people tried to tell y'all before he was elected what was going to happen. I mean, the second the builder pulled out when there was some discourse, y'all should have known then they didn't pull out because they were respecting your wishes. They pulled out because they wanted to see how they could get who they wanted in there. I think it's an absolute travesty that the majority of the people did not want this to happen, and here we are pushing it through. And yeah, forcing our residents to pay for the developer's utilities. It's asinine. Sometimes North Carolina law is so backwards that we're not allowed to charge impact fees when they're coming in here and building the way they're building. But at the same time, we have got to call on those municipal officials and hold them accountable when they do stuff like this. That the short answer, you need to put some pressure on those municipal officials. All right. Let's see, on the topic of religion, the gentleman who spoke in public comment at last night's commissioner meeting suggested having ministers from different religions coming to offer the invocation each month instead of just Christians. What is your thoughts on this? This one is a difficult question for me, because I'm not going to be praying to any other God, just like I don't expect anybody in that room to pray to any other God. This country was also founded by Christians, by the Christian faith. You spend money and it says, "In God we trust." So if you're really that convicted, stop spending money. I wouldn't be opposed to other ministers coming. It would not have. It would take no skin off of my back, because I'm not going to bow my head to any God but my own. And everybody in that room has the choice to do it. Everybody watching at home has the choice to do it. So I mean, sure, if you want to, while they're saying their prayer, I'm going to be saying mine. But here's where we've got to be very, very careful. There are religions out there that when they're preaching, they're opening demons up to our county. They are opening demons up to our county when they're praying at one of these meetings. I prefer to keep it more all the way Christian. If the majority of the voters wanted that, let's put it out to a poll. The role of government is to listen to the people it represents. If the majority wants us to rotate ministers, let's rotate ministers. It's not that hard to put a poll up. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think anyone focusing on that over the issues and the deficits we've got needs to take a look at their ideology, because they're making decisions from ideology, not like math and facts and reality. Because when you are getting evicted from your house because your taxes were so high you couldn't pay for it, or your landlord's taxes were so high you couldn't pay for it, and now they're raising your rent and you can't afford it, and now you're homeless, I don't think you're going to be sitting there packing up your car saying, if only they would have rotated ministers throughout. I just don't think that's something we that's important right now. Thoughts on the Second Amendment? Oh, I love the Second Amendment. There is a reason that Second Amendment is there, right? So, founding fathers, first thing they said, we're going to say what we want to say when we want to say. We're going to criticize you. The second thing, you're not going to take our guns, because you will never, ever, ever not be accountable to us, the people. I'm 100% pro 2A amendment. There are instances where people are like, oh, we need to tighten gun laws. Criminals don't follow laws. Every mass shooting we've ever had, where was it? Gun-free zones. Guess what? When they can't get a gun, they stab. They blow up. Stricter laws aren't going to do anything. Everybody in this country has the right to bear arms, and they should bear arms. And it's not so we can hunt deer. Oh no. It's so that that government can never overthrow us. Take a look at all the countries that took their citizens' guns away, right? They were in basically concentration camps during COVID if they chose not to get vaccinated or if they got COVID. And they had no way to fight back. Absolutely not. Not me. 2A all the way. I do real estate. I need my gun with me because I meet strangers at houses. I'm not getting abducted. I'm not getting raped. You're getting shot. We have the right to protect ourselves and protect our children. And we're seeing people get stabbed on subways on the county over. We're seeing people go missing left and right. We are a human trafficking hub. Everybody should have their gun and they should be carrying. That's how I feel about 2A. All right. I don't want to keep y'all all night, but I'll stay here all night if y'all have got questions still. It's 7:48 right now. One of the questions I got from an email was, how will Cabarrus County be better 4 years from now if you're elected? I'll tell you guys, like I tell my clients in real estate, I don't have a crystal ball. I can tell you what I think, but I don't have a crystal ball. But I think in 4 years, if I'm elected, you're going to see that with myself, Ian, and Laura on there, I think you're going to see our budget go down, and I think you're going to see our county thrive. I think you're going to see us get back to basics. I think you're going to see us be a county that people actually want to live in again, and hopefully we'll be able to lower your property taxes as well. But I think the biggest thing that will be different about Cabarrus County in 4 years if I'm elected is the culture. This culture will change from rules for thee and not for me. It will change from do as I say, I know better. It will change from not being explaining positions to our voters. It will change, hopefully, where we can give our voters more say. There's no reason we should be voting on things based on 15 minutes of 3-minute talk. No, there needs to be town halls for big things. And I hope for the person that asked me that question, I hope we'll be able to turn this county around and I can actually send my kids to public school and feel safe about it again. So that's that. The left have made a proposal to the city about not assisting ICE and to make a city, or to have the city make a resolution and saying that local law enforcement will not assist ICE in any degree. I don't often say things about the other side this bluntly, but the left can kick rocks on that one. If they want to see what a real protest looks like, y'all put that forward and watch how we rally, because that will not happen. Law enforcement is the backbone of this entire nation. We should respect our law enforcement officers and give them the utmost respect. And ICE, they are law enforcement officers. I have friends that are Democrat, that are Hispanic, that have a legal family here, right? So it's not that I'm not sympathetic, right? But let me ask you something. If a mom whose baby is starving goes and robs you at gunpoint, are you going to expect her to be prosecuted? Because she's just trying to feed her baby. She broke the law. She's a criminal. She needs to be prosecuted. Anyone that entered this country illegally is a criminal by default, number one. Number two, you didn't use due process when you were coming in. You don't get due process when you're going out. And number three, what our ICE officers are going through and dealing with right now, in Minneapolis especially, but all over, no law enforcement officer, no ICE agent should ever have to do that for enforcing the laws of this country. When you become a lawless nation, when you decide what laws are okay to break and what laws are not okay to break, and you don't have uniformity, your nation will crumble. Take a look at history, real history. History is taught because it can and will repeat itself if you don't do different. Do different. I support our ICE agents 100%, and I don't apologize for it. And if you want to come at me with some emotional little heartstrings, look, I can say, oh man, that's really sad. Still wrong. Still wrong. 100%. Your first act coming into this great nation cannot be a criminal act. And coming into this country the incorrect way is illegal. That's my answer there. I appreciate that question. All right, guys, it is 7:52. I have exhausted all the questions from those that couldn't be here. I have got all the questions on my little webinar chat. Let me check comments on Facebook. All right, none on Facebook. All right, so with that being said, guys, I am going to let you enjoy your evening. For everyone that joined us this evening, thank you so much. I appreciate each and every question. I know they all came from a place of wanting to know who you are voting for, and I would 100% respect that. If after this town hall you have decided you're going to vote for me, I appreciate it more than you know. Please share this town hall all over. Grab a yard sign. There's links that you can get it from on my campaign webpage. And if after this town hall you decided you hate me, at least you do it with knowledge about who I am and what I stand for. My name is Alexis Hughes. I'm running for Cabarrus County Commissioner. Hope to have your vote. Early voting, February 12th to 28th, and election day is March 3rd. These primaries will determine who your Republican candidates going into the general election are. So this is the important election. Don't wait until November, guys. I hope y'all have a great night. Thank you.